What makes you succeed is your uniqueness, which means standing out, which is going against thousands of years of evolution. Damien Andrews for Next Gen Sales. And I have a question for you. Do you really want to succeed? Now, that might be a jarring question because when we all think we go, oh, we want to succeed, we want to stand out, we want to do well. And the part that I just added there was, do you want to stand out? And this is an interesting point, which we all find that we fight against without really knowing about it, because we're tapping into deep survival instincts. See, a lot of us, we look at people that succeed and we go, I want that, I want that. But the reality is, when we come back to our primal instincts, which is where a lot of us operate from, it is deeply ingrained in us to survive. We don't want to stand out. Because when we take it back to our primal instincts, when you look at how survival happened back before we got a little bit civilized and weren't eating each other, so to speak, we were living out in the wild. And if, as a collective, you had more chance of survival if you stuck together, if you were part of a group. And you see this also out in the animal kingdom, but also too, that's why tribes formed, because you had more chance of survival. So it was in your interest to be part of that tribe and to fit in, not to stand out. If you stood out, then you were different, and there was a good chance you were going to be ostracized, pushed out, and eaten by a lion or something like that. And that's where, when you're thinking about your sales career, it really is important to think about where you want to be and how you are going to deal with this ability to pull back, to stay as part of the group. Because operating in a sales environment is not what most people do. It's not difficult. The tasks you need to do are not hard. But a lot of times we don't want to do that because it means doing something different. And this is where it's really important to think about that, because when we're looking at something, we are very, very cautious about doing something different, about standing out, about being at the forefront of something, because there's a very, very high risk that you could lose. I mean, if you look at someone like, for example, Richard Branson, I mean, he stands out a lot, but he's taken a lot of risks to get there. Now, were they calculated risks? No doubt they were. Did he fail a lot? Yeah, I would say that he did. But when we look at that taking that attitude, there's a lot of people that have done that you haven't heard of, that didn't succeed, that failed, that went broke. I used to work in corporate recovery, and I've dealt with a lot of business managers whose companies went under. That's a very, very real possibility. So this is something to think about when you're looking at, how you're going to go forward. Are you willing at a deep unconscious level? This is the difference. We all think we do at a conscious level, but we don't operate from our conscious mind. We operate from our unconscious mind. And this is the work that you need to do. And what we take you through in Next Gen Sales is getting to that deep unconscious to have that shift, because to do that requires you to not only stand out, but it's also quite lonely. You're out there, you have to, and this is the thing about being authentic. We use the word authentic, embracing your authentism. To be authentic, you need to be you. And that's an interesting point to be at, because when you're being you, you are completely alone. When you're you, you might be around people, but if you're uniquely you, then you are alone. And that's an interesting concept to embrace, and certainly to embrace, because it creates this whole new dynamic where you can actually create a unique persona. And as we know, uniqueness has value. It has a lot of value. And so that's the juxtaposition you face. And this is where we're talking about the difference between, do you really want to succeed? Coming back to that question, do you really want to succeed? Because if you do succeed, What makes you succeed is your uniqueness, which means standing out, which is going against thousands of years of evolution, um, unless you're creationist. But let's just take that in. We won't go into that debate. But it's going against all that survival instinct of wanting to be part of the group, of being part of the herd, to fit in, to be like everybody else. Because when you're like everybody else, you don't stand out and you've got less chance of being killed, as was the case before we got civilized. And so this is where you're fighting against that. And that's the evolution. You really need to become like, the the X-Men's a great example, all those characters that have evolved. We need to evolve our mind. You need to evolve your mind so that you are comfortable being yourself, which means that you are going to be different from everybody else because you are different from everybody else. So there's some things you'll fit in with, some things that you won't. And when you embrace that, that's when there's a whole transformative effect on how you operate. Success becomes very, very easy because you are focused on your uniqueness, you're standing out as a brand, and that's very attractive and valuable quality to have. So have a think about that. How are you standing out, and how comfortable are you standing out from the crowd? Because that's what's going to make your success easy or hard. This is Damien Andrews for the Next Gen Sales.